And we're back with another NBA observations right here at the Lakers Fast Break. It's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for checking out all we do here on this channel. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and make sure we got you covered there with the latest NBA observations and, of course, everything that we do on the Lakers Fast Break podcast as well. But it wouldn't be an NBA observations without a great NBA observer, and he is back for more each and every week. He's been here, and it's so great to have him back once again. A guy who focuses in so much and gives a clear idea about what's going on with the OKC Thunder. Plus, also as well, he does that at the Suave Report and his work on the New Century Press. It is Calif Poncy. Calif, good to have you back, man.
Yeah, excited. I thought last week was a pretty interesting week of basketball for the relative to it being March, especially. Usually this time of year, I think this is when the competition really starts to dip down before the playoffs. But I think really there's been some pretty interesting stuff, so I'm excited to go into it here.
Yes, and I know for the Lakers, no, they can't be blessed with having patsies or tomato cans on their schedule upcoming. No, they have to go ahead and have some real tests still, which is fine. We get an even closer test as far as to see how well they are going forward with tests against Denver and Minnesota. So we'll see what happens there. But the rest of the league is also having some good matchups and some good things and interesting things happen. A return, so to speak, as well. I did want to discuss it with Matt John, but he took ill, so he couldn't record this with me last week. So I know that he was chomping at the bit to talk about Jayson Tatum's return, but you and I are going to have to touch on it because he's been back for a couple games now. Obviously, the shooting is not there yet, but he's still able to score. Your thoughts first on Jayson Tatum's return to the Boston Celtics, which I guess is the biggest news of the NBA right now, and how he will fit back in to the hierarchy of the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, so far I think it's going really well. I mean, I was as worried as anyone about kind of not really what Tatum would do, but more what Jaylen Brown would do, to be totally honest. Like, I think Tatum really feels like a good teammate who wants to fit in. Not that Jaylen Brown isn't, but this is really the first opportunity he's gotten to be an alpha, and he's taken full advantage of it, obviously, in that All-NBA first team talk, MVP talk, things like that. But I think it's gone really well. Tatum looks a lot more athletic and like he has his burst a lot more than I thought he would, to be totally honest. Like, I thought maybe it would be like a 60-70% of what we are used to with Tatum. And I think that's probably true, but I think the fall off has really so far been, like you said, with that shooting. And that'll come with time. Like, we know Jayson Tatum can shoot, and it could just be he's cold and then next week he's hot, or it could be he needs to work his way, get his legs under him a little bit shooting wise. But like I think his first basket was a putback dunk where he just jumped up and, dunked it and hung on the rim. Like, I think he looks really good. And so, yeah, I mean, I think with between this and how good I think he's looked and how awesome the mesh looks, he looks really good with Kata. I think Kata's been good all season, but especially these last few games. And that mixed with the kind of the slide that Detroit has been on the last week or two, I think that you really need to, or not you, but everyone I think needs to look at Boston as a real threat to come out of the East on the year that I think a lot of people thought was going to be a bit of a gap year. I think they look like a real finals contender with the injuries in Cleveland and what's going on in Detroit.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. First off, before we get to the Pistons slide, because that is a part of this equation and part of the story here, because lo and behold, that 1, 6, 7, 8 game lead that they had in the Eastern Conference is now down to 2.5 games. And again, we'll go ahead and touch on the Detroit Pistons here in a minute, but Jayson Tatum coming back, obviously a good story for the Boston Celtics. And I think you're right. It does make them kind of leaning in, if right now the betting favorite in the East, because the fact that you have a a healthy Boston Celtics roster going forward. He has acclimated himself. I thought he was going to come off the bench, to be quite honest with you, to start off, because we've seen most of these stars like Wembanyama, when he was injured, he came back on the bench. Zion Williamson and a couple others also did that as well. But no, started right away. The numbers are down a little bit, obviously, for Jaylen Brown, but you saw the fact that he was still able to get 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 23 points in this last game. He's still able to affect the outcome of games. He's still able to make his imprint on the games, but you can see with Tatum there, it is taking a little bit away from the alpha mentality or the MVP level play that you're seeing from Jaylen Brown all season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take a second to get those two meshed together, which is to be expected. I mean, obviously, it's two really high usage guys. And it really, on top of that, like they just don't play. It's interesting that it's been such a successful tandem now that we've seen what Jaylen Brown is doing on his own, because they really don't play the same style like when I think they're at their best. Jaylen Brown, I think he's so athletic. He's so great in the open court. He's so good when they're going up and down, shooting a lot. And Tatum really, when he gets that rebound, he likes to slowly walk it up the court and set the offense and things like that. So it's going to take a second, I think, for this team to fully realize what it could be. But they were smart enough to, I think, get him back early enough, maybe lucky, smart, whatever you want to chalk it up to get him back where they have plenty of time to figure out the kinks ahead of the playoffs. And I don't know that I'm like want to say that this makes me super worried for Detroit, but like, you don't see OKC going on these losing streaks. You don't see San Antonio, and that's kind of the teams that they were rightfully being stacked up against with their record. And OKC, without a ton of their players, just battled, and like the worst stretch they've had was like 5-5, and the sky was falling. And San Antonio just doesn't lose, so they're just kind of falling behind. And they're, like you said, it's really becoming a battle at the top of the East more than it looked like it had any chance to be just a week ago. But I mean, I think Jaylen Brown will be fine, and I think he is going to continue to be the alpha throughout the season, and then we'll see what happens next year with Tatum being back fully. But I think I think I feel so good about the Celtics more so due to what the rest of the East is doing. Like these injuries in Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell's been out with a groin injury. He's back now, and then Harden just has this finger break thing that I guess he's going to play through. Max Strus hasn't played all year, and he was pretty important to what they wanted to do last year. They've clearly made up for without him, the emergence of Jalen Tyson. But I think with the Brown thing, like I think it'll figure itself out. And is he going to maybe be what he was, where it was, what's he at, like 28 points a game? Like, is he going to be one of those guys? It's just really hard with a guy like Tatum back who's so high usage. But I think the impact will probably be the same. He's going to probably able to be even a little bit better defensively. He's still going to be the alpha, I think, at the end of games when they need a shot, and he's been really good in that spot all year. So I'm not that worried about that. I think I'm just really interested to see what this looks like as Tatum gets healthier, gets that shot back under him. Because, I think in his first 2 games, he's played 27 minutes in both. Like, this isn't a low minute. We thought maybe this would be like he'd start 20 minutes. Like you said, maybe he'd start off the bench. He's playing nearly 30 minutes a game, and it's the first week he's been back. So by the time the playoffs come around, who's to say he's not playing 34, 35 minutes a game? So I don't know. I mean, this is just, I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago talked about how this was one of the more interesting subplots for the rest of the season, is just how he would come back and fit in. And I think he's fit in well, and he's playing way more and way better and way more athletically than I thought he would.
As to me as well. And obviously that makes the Celtics one of the prohibitive favorites even more. And if I'm a betting individual, again, coming out of the East, I would start to think really seriously about laying money odds on them, because they've had really great support throughout that. And boy, it really hurts me to say about anything nice about the Celtics, but you got to take a look at your NBA observations. If you're trying to go ahead and make sure you're doing this legit, you have to look at them somewhat objectively, and they've done a great job. Obviously, Brad Stevens, obviously, just from the coaching staff on down, what they've done with this organization to keep them relevant while Jayson Tatum was out, when you, me, maybe other people had them closer to 500 at best at this point in time, that we thought Kata has been a big surprise. I've heard people in Lakers, why can't we get somewhere? Well, he was available when Utah dumped him. he was out there. And he went back to summer league after his stint in Utah. He was looking for a job. He was available. He was out there. Hugo Gonzalez was a guy at the end of the first round that everybody seems to love with, him and his hair. And the Baylor Shiremans of the world, these guys that they have there, they were out there. If you wanted them, maybe they wouldn't be as successful or as driven as they would be on other teams, but whatever they're cooking up in Boston, as much to my chagrin, is they're cooking with gas. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, I think this is the difference between a guy like Brad Stevens and a guy like Rob Pelinka. And I've honestly been more on the pro side of Pelinka than most, but like finding gems other than Reeves, who is a weird situation where he's one of those guys who's available undrafted, but I think he probably would have got picked in the 40s. But to Pelinka's credit, he's smart enough to kind of get feelers in and say, listen, do you want to come play for the Lakers or do you want to get drafted by the Wizards 43rd? He said, I'll go to the Lakers. And so obviously Reeves is an awesome find and awesome success story. But other than that, like this just isn't a team that has found gems or diamonds in the rough. It's been like guys like a Marcus Smart. And I guess Rui Hachimura was kind of like that. But I mean, really like, but then I don't think Pelinka is ever going to be a GM is like, we're going to go get a Keita. We're going to find value at 30 in the draft. We're going to no, they're going to draft like Jalen Hood-Schifino and guys like that who just aren't good. That's kind of been what they've done, unfortunately for you. So, yeah, I mean, I think, but like to what you said, like, yeah, I mean, Boston, I think Boston and OKC are kind of, I think, hovering above the rest of the league in terms of just how their front offices are viewed by most. It just seems like whoever these guys bring in, Hugo Gonzalez, when he got drafted, I remember there was a lot of thought that he was going to stay over in Spain, I think, and maybe be stashed for a year. And they said, no, we're going to bring him over. And not only did they bring him over, he's been impactful and good all year, and he's a really good defensive player already. We'll see if the offense ever comes along, but you have a guy who can defend and try really, really, really hard, like you said. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this is just Boston's front office is awesome, and this Tatum recovery is crazy, and I think is maybe going to open some new doors onto how people handle Achilles surgeries and things like that, because his procedure was so unique in the way that it happened in New York, and they were able to do it like the night it happened before. I think the tissue was still pretty healthy when they were able to repair it, and now he's back after 10 months. And like we've said a couple times already, I think really the most shocking part of this is that he looks so good athletically. Like he has burst and he's holding up defensively and things like that. He's not Jayson Tatum yet, I don't think, but he's, I think, at a way better spot than anyone thought he would be. And so, yeah, I mean, this is just a great front office mixed with some luck in this Tatum situation, as lucky as you can get, I think, with something as bad as an Achilles injury. And yeah, so I mean, I think that this is a Boston team that has a real chance to make the finals this year. And I just think whoever comes out of the West is going to win the finals, be that San Antonio, Denver, OKC, whoever it may be. But this Boston team is really good, and we'll see if they have the horses come playoff time. But Keita's awesome, is a great find, who now I think, I don't know when his contract is up, but when it is, like, they're going to be right back expensive having to pay him a lot. So, yeah, but I mean, that's a great find. Hauser was a great find. Like, you look up and down this Boston roster, and it's guys who they just really, I think,
Peyton
kind of
Pritchard.
Yes, guys they got off the scrap heap or drafted late, and they're really winning and really helpful players. So, I mean, that's the difference between great front offices and good or poor front offices, is these teams like Denver and OKC and Boston and San Antonio, who are able to find like values like the AJ Mitchells and the Julian Champennies and Sam Hausers and guys like this, who these are really good players who you have for low cost. You get them locked in on good contracts. And so, yeah, I mean, everything, all the good that Boston does is coming to roost in a conference that I think doesn't really have a clear favorite right now, as much as it's probably not fair to Detroit because they've been the best team all year, but there's been that caveat. Like, we just need to see it a little bit first. There's not a ton of historical precedent for Detroit all of a sudden becoming a real finals contender out of nowhere after one playoff series. So we'll see what happens in the playoffs, but Boston, I think right now should be one of the favorites, if not the favorite.
Neemias Queta, by the way, has a contract, I think was for $8 million originally for 4 years, right around there. So it's about $2 million a year. And he is on the books for another year. So, yeah, they got him for
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, OKC and Boston seemingly find these guys that are productive and can get them on relatively cheap, inexpensive contracts. And you see how it benefits them. And yeah, I mean, the players with the Lakers with the low contracts are not giving you the kind of production you need. It's just, like you said, finding those diamonds in the rough. Talent evaluation, indeed.
Yeah.
But it is, of course, NBA Observations. Calif Poncy is here for the New Century Express and also as well the Suave Report. Please go ahead and check out his work at both those places if you can. But we talked about Boston and the fact that they are playing so well. They bring back arguably their best player, and they're now within breathing distance of the Detroit Pistons. A lot of that is due to the fact that Boston has been playing at a really high level now for quite some time. And it's also due to the fact that Detroit, after playing well above everyone's expectations, taking that leap from a team that just barely made the playoffs, gave a little bit of a fight to New York Knicks in that first round, to a team that was this time last week had the best record in the NBA, but they've been 5-5 in their last 10, lost 4 in a row. I don't want to say it's falling apart, but this team is heavily reliant on one individual, Cade Cunningham, to keep this team going. They do get support from Jalen Duren and others, but right now we're not seeing what we saw for most of the season from the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing they just felt so ahead of schedule, but they're just going through the regular progression of a young team that's going to be a contender for a really long time, I think. And they did lose Asar Thompson, and that may not seem like a big deal to those who don't watch Detroit because he's such I think really a minus offensively. I don't even think he's like indifferent. I think he honestly hurts their offense, but he is such a giant help and such a defining part of what they do defensively, which obviously is the identity of what this team has been all season. It's a team that beats and batters you defensively, plays awesome, and then Cade closes out the games on offense. That's kind of what that's been their formula all season. So we're seeing that when maybe that defense isn't at elite, like near OKC level, the offense just isn't there enough because Cade has to do everything. And so I think when they get Thompson back, we'll see them start rattling off wins again. But I mean, this is just what everyone has been concerned about for the playoffs, is what my takeaway from this has been. Now, I think they've lost their last 4, which obviously isn't great at any point. But I'm not worried about them come the postseason, and because of this little four game stretch. This has been what I think a lot of people have thought all season, which is if maybe you go against a healthy Boston or a New York or a team, and they are able to kind of penetrate that defense and start to get some of what they want, which happens to most defenses in NBA history, no matter how good they are. Like offense, they say defense wins championships. That is sometimes true, but a lot of times in the recent NBA history, it's not necessarily been the case. Great offense has outdueled great defense sometimes. So we're going to have to see what they do other than Cade. And this is why at the deadline, there were so many people clamoring for your biggest move can't be Kevin Huerter when you're in the spot. And I understand wanting to follow the San Antonio OKC method where let's see what we have, and then we'll attack after we see what we have. But you kind of saw what you had last year. And what you had last year was a good defensive team. And obviously, Duren stepped up, and like I've been singing his praises. Like I think that's an all-NBA level player, deserved an all-star bid. But he's not going to create you looks on offense. His looks are oftentimes predicated upon if Cade Cunningham can get his looks for him, getting him the ball at the rim, offensive rebounds, alley-oops, pick and roll. They're really good pick and roll in the pick and roll. But you need someone who can just create shots. And you see this with, I think it's going to be interesting to see what San Antonio does. San Antonio has guys who can create shots, but a lot of them haven't been in big spots. And Detroit, they don't really have anyone who creates shots. And so they have Cade, who's awesome and deserves to be in this MVP conversation. I think should make All-NBA, first team All-NBA. But very rarely can one player do everything. Actually, almost never in NBA history can one player do everything on offense, especially in an Eastern Conference that I think at the top is better than we thought it was going to be. Like I think Detroit's really good. New York feels maybe a little underwhelming, but record-wise, and if you watch them, like they are who they are, they're a really good team, I think. Boston with Tatum back is back a really good team again. And obviously Cleveland maybe has more talent than any of them. We'll see if they can get out of their own way. But yes, I mean, this is why maybe they should have went and got a Michael Porter Jr. And you can say this for a lot of teams. I mean, like, I just think that it's dangerous to follow maybe historical outlier models like OKC and San Antonio. And we're saying follow San Antonio like they've done anything. They haven't even been in the playoffs yet. So really this is following the OKC precedent of that first year when OKC made the second round. They made no additions, much to the chagrin of everybody. Like, how do you not get a big? And then they really lost to Dallas because they didn't go get a big. And Chet Holmgren just wasn't ready for that challenge yet. And Luka Doncic was alley-ooping them every other play, and they couldn't get a rebound. And I think we could see a similar situation with Detroit, where this is a team that clearly can make the finals. But maybe they just sat on their hands a little bit and didn't use this treasure trove of assets that they have to go get another creator. And even if that's someone like Michael Porter Jr., I think I maybe already name dropped him, but he's not perfect. And we're seeing he's coming back down to earth in Brooklyn the second half, but he can create a shot. And I think that's really all they need. I don't think they need another all-star. I think they already have their 2 all-star All-NBA players. But I just think they need someone who in a bind can go get a shot other than Cade Cunningham. And I think we're just seeing that come to roost now when they don't have this A-plus defense because of the injury to Thompson.
But fear not, my friend, when it comes to Detroit Pistons. If you're a Pistons fan, you have Brooklyn on the schedule coming up next.
Yeah.
You have Memphis. You have 2 games that you get to spend, checking out the scenes in Washington, D.C. So they have 2 games in a row in Washington, D.C. Golden State in a little bit of disarray. New Orleans on the schedule. So I have a feeling, not too distant future, they may not be on that much of a slide. Just kind of got a gut feeling about that. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Just a gut feeling. But you're right. Asar Thompson, his injury is underrated, especially for a team. This team has to have everyone healthy for it to work. Way they built this team, the way they run this team, the way that their rotations work, it has to work very fluidly without deviation, because of the fact every guy knows his role and plays it to the T. And when somebody is out of the lineup, normal thing is, okay, well, next guy stands. They just don't have those guys that can go ahead and do those other things enough that it's going to keep them at that sustained high level that they've had most of the season. They need all the parts to that machine, using the Detroit Pistons, phonology there. So, as far as what you would say about it, but using those type of Detroit auto-isms that are there, they do need all those parts of that engine to make it go.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly a situation where, kind of like I was saying earlier, like this was their team, and they said, this is going to be our team, and we're not going to add much because Kevin Huerter hasn't really been able to crack the rotation there after he was their deadline acquisition that they really just got for getting off of Jaden Ivey because he wasn't going to be a fit there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's when you lose a guy, especially a guy who I think is a starter. I mean, I'm not, they change around their starting lineup some in Detroit and play different guys depending on, the matchup. And they have a lot of guys who are in that kind of big wing, really good at defense, athletic mold, but they do need him because Ron Holland isn't ready for that. And he's kind of, I think, the logical fill-in, but he's just not ready for that role. And so Thompson's a bit frustrating, just like his brother. Like, maybe they're not quite where you want them to be offensively, and maybe they're never going to be able to shoot, and maybe they're never going to be this fully realized idea that they almost are, where this is like, well, if they work out, how great can they be? Maybe they're never going to be that, but they are A-plus defensive players who are irreplaceable on that end of the floor when they're not in the game. And so, I mean, yeah, I agree with your point where they need everyone healthy, but he, I think, especially is just a guy who, like, they obviously can't replace Cade Cunningham. He's number one he does everything for them offensively, and he's a really good defensive player on top of it. Duren, I think, is clearly number 2. Like, they don't have Beef Stew's good, but he's not that on offense, and he's not that on the boards. And I would almost say that Thompson might be the 3rd most valuable player on the team just because of how versatile he is on that defensive end. And they need, with this current structure, they need every ounce of that defensive ability that he provides, because the offense isn't always going to be there for him. And so, yeah, when anyone on this team goes out, it's going to be hard for them to be them who we've seen all season, but especially him, because I think he's almost as key to their defensive identity as Cade is to their offensive identity, which is saying a lot. But I don't think that's far off from being true. I just think that he really unlocks everything they want to do. And so I think the most impactful defensive player in the NBA is clearly Wembanyama. Like, he just shuts off offenses when he's in the game. But I think after him, it's this like list of maybe 10, 15 guys who are all in the same like impact ability. And I think he's in there. Like, he really locks down guys on the perimeter, and he's so athletic, good at jumping in passing lanes, and can really guard 1 through 4 and sometimes 5 if it's a smaller guy. So when he gets back, all of a sudden, I think they'll start rattling off crazy wins again. But they're clearly not going to have home court in a hypothetical NBA Finals anymore after this little stretch, just because OKC now they have a few more setbacks now, but they're finally getting healthier this later in the season, and they're starting to look a lot more like the team they were earlier in the season. And then, like I said, San Antonio just like doesn't lose anymore. Like, they just have they've broken basketball. They just are not losing basketball games. So it's unfortunate, because I think Detroit had a chance at that, but either way, they built such a big lead. They still should be the 1 seed in the East, even with this slide.
I think that was their only pathway to interrupt. My apologies for interrupting, but I think that was their only pathway is their only pathway to NBA final success, was to have home court advantage throughout the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we saw that last year. Like, there's been this some talk that maybe home court isn't as important as it always has been, and I just couldn't disagree. Like, I just think last year, like, watching that OKC run so closely, like, they don't win the finals without being at home, and all those. They don't win Denver.
They don't win against Denver without it being OKC. I don't know. I'm one of those that says I don't know because of Halliburton. I would have liked to have seen the healthy Halliburton in that game to be definitive for sure, to be quite honest with you. But
for sure, 100%.
But that Denver, I won't argue with you. But I mean, even if Gordon was healthy, I think that OKC would have won at home.
Regardless. Yeah, I think so too. I think the right team won, and they were healthy and they were the best team all year, and they were healthy come the playoffs. But obviously that Halliburton thing is going to be a huge what if for, the poor Pacers fans forever. We'll see if the NBA gods kind of get them back here and let them keep their lottery pick. But yeah, I think home court is so important, and especially for young teams, and especially when you haven't been in it, and say you're able to just scrap your way to a Game 7, having guys like Holland or Thompson or whoever else it may be, Dennis Jenkins, having those guys be able to play at home instead of maybe in Boston or wherever, in OKC, in San Antonio, in Denver, like, it's going to be such a huge deal. And so it's unfortunate for their odds of winning the title. Not that I think they would have won anyway, but I agree that was their only path, was just win 4 at home, lose 3 on the road, whatever. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. But we needed to discuss it. Like, they haven't looked like the same team lately, and it's really been those, like I've said, those concerns that we've had about them all year, where when Cade maybe isn't able to not ride, because that sounds dismissive of who he's been, and he's been awesome, and like I've said, the All-NBA first team MVP candidate, but when he's not able to use, and SGA does the same thing, to be clear, but have this great defense back him up, and that's really the lifeblood of their team, and then you just do everything on offense, fill in the gaps on offense. When they don't have one of those two equations, they become a different team. And so we'll see when Thompson gets back, but I just think this has really maybe confirmed some fears that we have for the playoffs of this team, where I just don't know if they're going to be able to have the offense when these other really good teams are rolling, because that happens no matter how good your defense is, teams just can't miss sometimes. And so we'll see how they handle it. But I think this has been an instructive reminder of what happens when that defense is shut off a little bit, and just something to keep in the back of your head when the playoffs come around.
Once again, it is Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and support him today at the New Century Express, and then also as well at the Suave Report. But yeah, I can't agree with you more. I think that, again, that was their only pathway, I think, to ultimate final success. It is very heavily reliant on Cade Cunningham to do his thing, Jalen Duren to do his thing, and a lot of inexperience to do their thing as well with that team. So there's a lot of ifs on that team. It's not as stable as I would say San Antonio looks like going into it as far as a playoff run is concerned. But if they recover, they can go ahead, still finish strong in the East, number one in the East. We'll have to wait and see. They've got a lot of tomato cans up on the way, as the old using the old boxing vernacular there. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think their losing streak will last much longer.
No. No, they're going to probably rattle off a winning streak here, would be my guess.
Yes. Thank God for the Washington Wizards. There you go. Yeah. It's just funny when the schedule maker put that as far as 2 home games against the Detroit Pistons right in a row. It's like, oh,
get them out of the way. Get them out of the way.
Might be nice to do that. Who was it for nice for? Was it for nice for Washington? Was it nice for Detroit? I'm beginning to wonder. But yeah, if you guys have thoughts on what's going on with Tatum's return, how Boston looks, unfortunately for the Lakers fans, and the Pistons slide, how far do you think that slide will go? Let us know down in the comments. But before we head on out, a couple things I wanted to talk about, including one that we didn't mention beforehand, but obviously he's very well aware of it when I talk about him with that. In fact, we'll do it right now. We'll do it as far as SGA is concerned, because SGA is on the brink of NBA history as far as most games consecutively achieving 20 points or more. I don't know how much you value that. I mean, it's going to be passing the great Wilt. I like it for the fact that it's going to have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will have at least one NBA record that's hard to attain, that we will have most likely for a long time. I'm very happy for him for that. I'm also, anytime Wilt Chamberlain gets acknowledgement and how great a career he has, I like that as well, because he is in my top 5 all time. Your thoughts on SGA as someone who covers the OKC Thunder and has seen the rise? We talked about this the other day on one of the post games as far as best players of the past 10 years. I said I couldn't put him on my list yet. If you're talking best of the decade, SGA will be, by the end of the decade, one of the best players of the decade, what he does the back half of the decade. But the question was 2016 to 2026. I can't put him there yet. I couldn't put him on that list simply because of the fact that he hadn't achieved all that he had achieved as of yet. He was just getting started as far as his high level of play. But we're now seeing it. We're now in the middle of it. We're now in the part where he is achieving that level of success, that level of greatness. He is etching his Hall of Fame status as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the hardest things to do in basketball, especially the NBA, is really appreciate all-time greatness as it's happening. It's just not really how basketball discourse is, I think, laid out.
Like with LeBron and Kareem. LeBron did pass the all-time record for field goals for Kareem, and just a brief mention of Kareem, and then it just, instead of just reflecting on the fact that Kareem was one of the greatest to ever play the game as well.
Yes, I mean, I think guys get to a level of undeniability like LeBron. Who else falls in it? Like LeBron, KD, Curry. I really think those are the only 3 that are popping into my head. I mean, Jokic should be there, but he's another guy like SGA is just still in his prime. So I almost think it's hard to discuss where he already ranks all time just because of we don't know because he's still there. But yeah, I mean, I just think that this is a record that it's gonna with how SGA is kind of, I think, taken in online. It's going to be one that's maybe dismissed a little bit by the online community. Those who I think actually watch and appreciate and like basketball, I think everyone recognizes how special Shai is and what we're watching with him. But I mean, just like anyone could have done, like we've had a lot of all-time great players since Wilt Chamberlain played, and a lot of all-time great scorers: Michael Jordan, Kobe, Harden, T-Mac, Kevin Durant, LeBron, any of those guys, and any of them could have done it, and they didn't. And so I think this is a nod to just how consistently awesome every game, like to a level that very rarely have we ever seen. Like every game, how great Shai's going to be, and Sometimes he gets it via free throws. Sometimes he gets it because he shoots 80% from the field on 20 shots. Sometimes, I think those who pay closer attention know like about his efficiency, how crazy his efficiency is, like 55% from two as a guard, which just is unprecedented. That almost has never happened before outside of the all-time like Michael Jordan types and Kobe's. And so, yeah, I mean, I think and I agree with what you said. Like when we look back at SGA's career in 7 years, 10 years, whenever that is, just having his name, because it's really, really, really hard to truly attach your name to all-time history. Like very few ever able to, no matter how great they are, like what all-time history that you just can like, not that, I mean, if you watched him, but like when you're just looking at a record, like what records does James Harden hold? And James Harden's one of the most automatic scorers we've ever seen, undeniably, but there's not some crazy record that he has his name next to that you're going to be able to like, oh, SGA, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, like that's who's on this list. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope he gets his flowers that he should, even though I know he won't. He is an all-time, we're witnessing an all-time great player. I think, his is going to be, I think, either his fourth or fifth straight year averaging 30 points. It's going to be his fourth or fifth straight All-NBA first team. It's likely going to be his second straight MVP. If OKC wins the championship again, he's almost certain to be the Finals MVP. And so I think we're just in the midst of an all-time career here, and it's really hard to realize that and process that in the moment. I think we even are still seeing that a little bit with Giannis. Like, where does Giannis really rank all time? I don't know if there's 30 better players all time than Giannis, but it's just kind of hard to look at him like that because he's still so good when he's in the court. And so we'll see. I mean, if SGA, assuming he stays healthy and closes out this MVP, that I think is now a pretty heavy favorite to win. If he's able to score 20 in his next two games and pass this Wilt record, I think it's just going to be a thing where if you really zoom out, like how many guards already are all time, not to mention if he wins the championship this year, like two-time Finals MVP, two-time MVP, he's going to be, I mean, like Russell Westbrook and James Harden, like those guys don't have 5 All-NBA first teams. Damian Lillard has like 1. And like these are all-time great, I think top 75, 80 players in their own right. And SGA is just already blowing past what these guys are doing in terms of those types of accolades. So, yeah, I mean, he's a really special player, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I thought about it, but I didn't want to get too OKC centric, and I don't know how maybe specialized that topic is. But I'm glad that there's people around the league taking notice because he deserves all the flowers. He's a plus leader. You never hear about him being in trouble. He just kind of goes in, does his thing, plays great. The worst thing he does is shoots a lot of free throws. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I think it's a testament that, like I said, like a lot of all-time great players had the opportunity to do this and no one has. And so for him to be doing it, I think is just a nod to how special of a player and how consistently great he is.
Again, you can't argue with it. Yeah, again, the foul baiting. I can't argue with the foul baiting because I have 2 players on my team that do the same thing and look for the same thing. And quite a bit of their game relies on the same thing as SGA does. I get that. I understand that. So I'm not gonna go there with that. Again, I know that a lot of people are targeting that as far as the reason for his success or the reason why he's been able to do so many consecutive games. To some extent, they're right. Yes, there have been days where he's probably struggled with his shot, where it probably was like a 15, 17-point game, but he had enough free throws in the bank to go ahead and get him over the 20 mark. I get that. I understand that. But he's only, like I say with my guys, he's only taking advantage of what the refs are giving to him. If the refs decide to change the way they call players like SGA, Luka, Austin Reeves, then you will see changes in their game and accordingly. But right now, you got to play with the cards that you're dealt with, and they are. And do I like to see it? No. But the thing is, you have to figure out how to defend better against it. Or if you're going to let SGA get his 40, that make sure you defend everyone else. That's the thing where you commit to, and we'll see how it plays out when the calls are less, when it's more physical in the postseason, how that continues for SGA.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of what people said, I think, to maybe try and detract from him last year. And then he, had, I think, the most 30-point games during a playoff run of anyone ever. Like, I think that it's just a pretty box score watchy, lazy way for any of these guys. And that includes Luka, and that includes Giannis, and that included James Harden. Like, if you want to chalk up all these guys due to free throws, you don't like the NBA. Like, it's like Kevin Durant famously, one of his many famous tweets, like, no one hates the NBA more than people who say they like the NBA. Like, this is like everyone, like Kobe shot a lot of free throws, Jordan shot a lot of free throws, T-Mac shot a lot of free throws, Harden shot a lot of like all these guys, Steph Curry and Damian Lillard and even Damian Lillard had like a 9+ free throw attempt. I think his last season during his first stint in Portland, he had a really heavy free throw. So all these lead guards who are high usage, who, like Steph Curry is such an oddity because his offense has never come, like his offense doesn't come from inside the 3-point or inside the paint, like on a high frequency. So, I mean, Dwayne Wade, another one, like all these, if you just want to go through all these all-time guards, like statistically speaking alone, not a big historical outlier issue. He's been over, I think, 10 a game once, and it was when the Thunder won 40 games, and no one cared because the Thunder weren't any good yet. So, if anyone who wants to try and dismiss him or poo-poo what he does because of free throws, I just would tell that person, if they really care to be educated, which often people who make that argument don't, just go look at history. Luka's shooting a lot of free throws. Wade, I mean, I already said all the names. Like, all these guys all have shot. I think SGA is probably the lowest on that list in terms of their career high free throw attempts in a season. Like, he shot, I think, just under 11 a game the 40-win season. And so that was his biggest free throw season. But like, Jordan had multiple over 10. Kobe had multiple over 10. Harden had multiple over 10. Luka has been over 12 for a lot of this season. I believe he's under that now, somewhere in that between 10 and 11. But still, like, this is not a net right now thing. This is not a all-time outlier thing. This is as I've said on this show, as I've said in my writing, as I've said in casual conversation I've had with my friends, he shoots the free throws he deserves to shoot, historically speaking. Like, he has the shot diet and the volume and the shots per game of a player. No one can guard him, and so he gets fouled. We see this with Luka too. Like, no one can guard Luka, and SGA especially. Like, SGA's game is so getting to he generates more paint touches than nearly anybody in the league. So, he gets fouled because he does all his stuff at the rim, and we see when you don't foul him, like, he is all time, maybe like arguably the most efficient guard at the rim on high volume we've ever seen when you don't foul him. So your options are foul him, or he's probably going to make the layup or dunk or whatever, usually a layup. And so, I mean, I think that's just a really lazy way that people point to him and say, like, he has these high free throws games and coaches get mad, where it's like, really, Mike Brown, you're mad that SGA gets free throws like Jalen Brunson. I mean, I get that SGA's free throw attempts per game are more, but they should be. He gets fouled more. He's bigger. He gets to the paint more than Jalen Brunson. And so I just think that, like, I think Steve Kerr had the best answer to it the other day when SGA shot 15 free throws, and he was just like, I don't blame SGA. Like, this is how the game's officiated. Well, this is kind of how the game has always been officiated. Like, high volume guards always have shot a lot of free throws, especially when they're all-time greats. And by every stretch, like, that's what we're watching with SGA. Like, he's an all-time great player who's going to be one of the, probably at worst, assuming OKC's team success maintains and Wemby doesn't just come ruin everything for everybody, which could very well happen. We're probably looking at worst a top 30 player of all time, assuming no injuries and team success maintains at a reasonable rate. So, I just think that's a lazy way to evaluate any of these guys' games, especially Shai. If you watch him and think that he's only scoring a lot because he shoots free throws, then you're just watching with an agenda, and I know what to tell you, because that's not what I see. That's not what I see with Luka. That's not what I saw with James Harden. Like, I get they shoot a lot of free throws, but they shoot a lot of free throws because no one can stay in front of them or stop them. And so they're really resorted, like, you have to foul these guys. So that's my take on it. I'm glad that SGA maybe was going to get some nationwide flowers here for this Wilt record that, again, like, anyone in history could have broken and no one has. And so if you think SGA has the best whistle of all time, that's just hyperbolic, and he doesn't even have, technically speaking, doesn't have the best whistle in the league right now, just based off of straight free throw attempts. So, I would assume, I mean, obviously, like at this point, there's enough sample. Like it's likely you'd think he'd break this, especially he's had a lot of success against Denver. And then I don't remember off the top of my head who OKC plays after Denver, but yeah. So I mean, he's gonna. He's an all-time great player. I'm glad that he's gonna etch his name in history, likely, and that with that, and then here in about a month or so, probably a second MVP, assuming he stays healthy. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't want to get super OKC centric. But yeah,
again, it's part of the NBA and what's going on right now. Again, I could go on as far as LeBron, his greatness, what he has done over the course of his great career. This past weekend, passing, or actually, it was on Thursday, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the all-time field goals record. That's obviously a great achievement, and sometimes I gloss over it because we focus more on wins and losses with the Lakers. But you have to go ahead and acknowledge these great careers that these guys are having, whether it's LeBron or SGA. So no, don't feel like you have to go ahead and ignore it because this is part of what the NBA is all about.
Yeah, I mean, and he's, I think, the second best player in the NBA and has been for the last 2 years to me. So yeah, I mean, he's Thunder, obviously one of the stories of the NBA, and they probably will be for a while. He's the best record reigning champions, MVP guy, someone who's probably going to win at least 2 MVPs. We'll see about after that. It's really hard to win 3 just in NBA history, as we've seen with multiple guys. It's really hard to win 2, but not to mention getting past that two MVP mark. So we'll see. And Wemby is just this slender man, crazy all-time outlier who I think is going to win 11 defensive player of the years, and we'll see, what happens. But
just stay healthy for the sake of my ticket that I have. Stay healthy. Value rising. There you go.
So we'll see. But I'm glad that I mean, we're it's hard to appreciate greatness in the moment, but maybe a record like this will make it a little more digestible for people to kind of recognize the level of player that he is all time. And the guy, like his statistical comparisons for a few years, it's like, oh, only Michael Jordan and SGA have done this. Only Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and SGA have done this. Like that's just kind of the company he's been in for multiple years now. So I think with the second MVP, I think with this record that seemed, I mean, if Wilt has it, it's almost unbreakable. That's kind of, I think, the gist on Wilt records a lot of the time. And he's probably going to break it. So, yeah, I mean, just an all-time great player who I'm glad that is on a team that I get to watch a lot because I think he's really fun to watch when you put aside maybe some preconceived notions about how he gets all his points via free throws. I think he's a great watch and a really good leader. And I think one of the guys that if you had, I think Wemby I think Wemby is first if you were going to build a team around a guy, undoubtedly. I think Jokic is still probably second just because how he makes everyone better and is such a good rebounder as well. But I think SGA maybe is third on that list right now. And so that's just my opinion, obviously. But yeah, so an all-time great player who's about to break an all-time record that we never thought was going to get broken.
Before we head on out, my friend, the Rookie of the Year race has changed a little bit since we last talked about it. It would seem like that the two Duke roommates were 1 and 2, Cooper Flagg and Com Knipple, but it looked seemingly for quite a bit that Cooper Flagg was going to go ahead and take the prize, but he got injured. Mm-hmm. And during the time he got injured, also the rise of the Charlotte Hornets. And, I know that a lot of people still try to focus in on Lonzo Ball and how he has played and how he has changed his game towards the way that they needed to play in Charlotte, leading to a lot of their success. I know they've lost their last 2, but leading to the fact that they were gone from nothing to a 500 team has to be given a lot of credit to their success and their rise this season. But the guy who should get a great part of that success has been their best player, in my opinion, and that is Com Knipple. Mm-hmm. And he was at first my Rookie of the Year. Cooper Flagg passed him with some really outstanding games, got injured, and ultimately, we talk about how these voters vote. It's based on narrative. And right now the narrative clearly is favoring Com Knipple, over a guy that's playing at a high level for a tanking team. Your thoughts on the rookie race between Com Knipple and also as well, of course, Cooper Flagg, And also, if you could add on, how many days will it be before Maxime Renal passes them both?
Yeah.
26 and 11 and 3 blocks last night.
Yeah, I've become an investor in Maxine in my dynasty basketball leagues.
I'll just say this: I know that they kid me on the Lakers Discord when we watch games, especially shout out to Courtside Lakers for doing so. That's your guy, Gerald. He's only my guy because Rob Pelinka traded twice and passed right by him. And I'm not saying that he's going to be a great center in the league, and he is playing for Sacramento right now. So there's a lot of stat padding going on. Let's just be honest. But that kid's trying. That
Yeah.
kid's giving effort. And he's making it easier for the team to decide to really try to see if they can find a way to move Sabonis in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, he's been really promising. And I think that for Sacramento, especially, like any young promising player is always really encouraging there because they haven't had very
put
many.
Him above VJ?
No.
Okay.
No.
Not yet?
Not even close for me, personally.
It's closer for that to me. It's closer than that.
Yeah.
But not quite enough because Philadelphia is a winning team and Sacramento is Sacramento.
But yeah. But so, I mean, I think this is an interesting rookie class because I think Flag is clearly the best player. I don't think anyone would really disagree with, like, if you're just isolating one-on-one, I think Flag's the best player. But I do think this should be Knupple's award. And I think that's even if Flag plays and maintain and, gets to the game's limit and everything. I think what he's done, and because you say it's narrative, and it is, of course, and it's all these awards are somewhat narrative based. But like, it's not really narrative that Charlotte's been a dumpster fire for whatever 20 basically since they traded Alonzo Mourning, and I mean they're fine with like Glenn Rice, I guess, but like I mean I don't know, they've been a dumpster fire forever, and he comes in and he is their best player. Like I love Brandon Miller, but I think what Knuple brings, he's just so additive offensively, and this is to go back to OKC again, when last year when the draft process started, and I never thought it was never likely that Knuple was going to get down to like 15 where OKC was. That was never going to happen ever. But there was maybe thought that he would go in that 8 to 11 range, and OKC had picks, they could trade up. And he was a guy who I just think you just watch even at Duke, and he is such an additive, winning, does everything you'd want. He's connective offensively. He tries on defense. He's an A+ shooter, as we've already seen. He's like already one of the 3 best shooters in the league, in a league that has Steph Curry in it. Like he's that level of shooter. And he just has a level of professionalism to his game that you saw at Duke and you're seeing now. And he is a A+ winning basketball player to the point where he is changed, I think, not single-handedly, because I think Brandon Miller being healthy is a huge part of this too. And them finding Diabate and Charles Lee is an awesome coach who I think maybe it's going to be too little too late for them for him to win Coach of the Year just because of how good like Detroit has been and teams like that. But I think he should I think I would maybe vote him that, assuming they have to maintain through the rest of the season, obviously. But on the track they've been on and how good they've been. And the owners, I don't know if it's the ownership change. I don't know if it's him. I don't know what it is, but Charlotte just feels different now. And that started this year. And I think that he's a big part of that. He makes them professional. And a team that even last year, like LaMelo Ball just didn't feel like a serious basketball player. Like, not that he wasn't talented and not that he couldn't put up stats and eventually maybe being that, but he was playing like backyard basketball while being the icon face of an NBA franchise and one of the most popular players with kids in the league. And like we know his social reach, but Knuple came in and I think he's legitimized Charlotte. And I think they now are a team that, I don't know what their cap space situation is, but like if you're going to see if they can get like another additive big as a free agent or a trade this summer, this is a team that I think could be in the top 5 in the East next year. And that's with most of their key guys still being under 23, 24 years old. So, yeah, I think it's Knuple should win it. Stats are great. I don't know them off the top of my head, but stats are good enough to pass, obviously. And then I just think how additive he's been and how he's really legitimized the whole franchise. And not that I don't think Flag's going to be a better player, and not that I don't think Flag's a better player now. Like I said, like I think if Flag would have, if Charlotte would have got super lucky and won the lottery instead of Dallas, who knows where? Like I think we could be talking about Charlotte as maybe a top 6 seed this year based off how they've played. But That's not what happened. And Knupple's gone there and he's done everything. He's good at everything already. And he's just a rookie and only played 1 year in college. And so
he's embracing 50, 40, 90 as a rookie.
Exactly. Like everything you'd want them, but like such a winning player. And it's so hard to be, no matter how good you are, like it's so hard to be a winning player as a rookie just because it's hard. Like it's the NBA. It's like, it's just very few guys. Like, I don't even know if I'd put VJ Edgecombe there yet. And I love VJ Edgecombe. Like, I think he has a chance to be an all-star, all-NBA type guy himself. But I don't even know if he, like, every play he makes, like, he still gets heat checky and things like that. Like, Knuppel just goes out there, makes the right play every time, is a great connector offensively, holds up defensively, and makes everyone around him better. And that's so hard to do as a rookie. And not to mention, he might already be the second best shooter in the league, just because I think that list permanently until he retires will start after Steph Curry. But he might be the best shooter who's going to play the minimum this year of 65 games. Like he's so good. And so I think it should be his award to lose. And I don't even think it should really be close. Honestly, that's how important I think he's been. And maybe I am just buying into the narrative and not looking at just the straight games. And maybe I shouldn't be doing that, but I just think this is a rare situation where a guy came in and seemingly legitimized a franchise. And that very rarely happens, especially as a rookie.
Well, we will see what happens throughout the rest of the less than 20 games we have in the season to see how that race, which is still very close between those two, finishes out. But I do have Knuppel ahead. So let me know down in the comments below, guys, what your thoughts are on the Rookie of the Year race. But Flag is the better player, but Knuppel is having the slightly better season for a team that is actually in the midst of a possible playoff run. So we will see what happens there. VJ Edgecombe having a nice season. Like you said, could work on the shooting overall from the field. It's a little lower than you like. It's rookie level. Let's put it that way. It's a common rookie level percentage at this point in time. But again, there are some interesting players in this draft class. It definitely isn't a throwaway draft class, to say the least. And I think there are some productive players going forward. And yes, Derek Queen, he has been moved to the bench. He is now reserve on that team as of the present time, my friend. Your thoughts on it? Is it something about New Orleans having buyer remorse, or do you think that Derek Queen can ultimately justify that asking price for the Atlanta Hawks?
I mean, he's going to have to be really great, especially with where it looks like this pick could be in this draft. Like if that pick lands in the top 4, I like Derek Queen a lot. I liked him as a prospect. I like him now, but that's just he's not on the level of the top 4. He's probably not on the level of the top 7 in this class, but not to mention the top 4. I get they don't like have incentive to lose. And so like, no matter how good you are, that's why I think Knuppel and Flag and even VJ to some extent are so special, because it's just really hard to win games with rookies in the lineup as huge players. They're really, really key in what you do. But Queen but they don't have their picks, so they're not playing they're not starting Fears either. They weren't as of a week ago. Like they're just trying to win games because they don't have incentive to lose. I get it. I also just think that with what this roster is right now, Queen doesn't fit, and that is not like that shouldn't be a long-term concern, because I think he and Fears, I think they're both good. Like I think they hit on both their picks. Now the price they gave up,
they're solid. I think they're solid, and they do bring a lot of skill, especially Fears. Fears is a skilled player.
Yeah,
but he has his size is going to have some issues.
He's going to have some stuff to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
for New Orleans, I think it's solid, but is solid, especially if Atlanta lands.
No, it's not. I mean, that's the thing. So I mean, it's why I really admired what the Clippers did at the deadline, where they know, like at the time, it's like, well, we're probably going to be making our team worse, giving up Zubats, giving up Harden, but the picks we have out the door, they're sunk costs. Like we already did this. We can't make decisions based off stuff we've already done. Like that's a way to, you get hung up, and that's the way you really stay in purgatory, is when you don't just move on, rip the Band-Aid off. And so I think you just it was a terrible trade. I don't know how Joe Dumars ever got another GM job after how he did in Detroit. I don't know why they hired him. I don't know why they have him and Troy Weaver as brain trusts. Like that's just Detroit's rejected front office, I guess, is what you decided you wanted to do. But really, like this offseason, they just need to go about it. They need to trade Zion. I know he's been good this year. He doesn't fit with Queen. So you got to pick. Like, you either need to, like, those two are not ever going to be able to play together defensively. It's just never going to work. They're both poor defensive players. They're both undersized for their position. And you can get away with one person like that, but you can't play two and then Fears up top as like he's always going to be offensive liability too. So you have to pick. And if you have, like, I would argue, and now that they're a ways off from this is not a comparison I'm making, but like if you just start from scratch and say, we have Fears at the 1, we have Queen at our 5. Those are our things we believe in. That is what we are moving forward with. They're not similar players, but like just in terms of the way they're both defensive liabilities, offensive players, like we've seen this work in Denver. Like Jokic and Jamal Murray are both defensive liabilities, and yet they've been able to build a championship level team, but you have to surround them with the right players. I think they really struck gold with Sadiq Bey. I think he's good. I think he does winning stuff. They got him for nothing. I think they need to make sure they re-sign him, do whatever you need to do, slot him in at your 3 or 4. Herb Jones is a great player to surround those two with. The A+ defensive player. He insulates a lot of issues. So I think really on a roster, they have like a starting lineup that makes some sense, but you got to get off Zion and then Trey Murphy at the 2. I mean, then he's a really good player too. But honestly, I would trade Trey Murphy, not because, I mean, I wrote that I thought the Thunder should trade for him at the deadline. I love Trey Murphy. I think he's a great player.
Well, I would love the Lakers to have him and Jones, man, to put them alongside Luka. Oh,
so I think, and you could keep him, and you, if you wanted to have your starting lineup next season, go into it, clear the decks. Other than this, have Fears, Herb, Trey Murphy, Sadiq Bey, and Queen. You're not going to be a good defensive team, but you're probably never going to be a good defensive team if you're built around Derek Queen, which that's kind of the bed you made yourself with this trade.
That's the problem. And that's exactly what I mean when I say that. I mean, you always have to have maybe almost a too big lineup when you consider playing with him. Yeah.
And so maybe that's what you do. Maybe you try and find a way. But I mean, they have a cheap ownership that doesn't really care about basketball. They're football people. So I don't know that you're going to get some overpay contract to bring in a big, and you're going to have to overpay to get anyone to come there. Or you trade Trey Murphy, who you'd get a king's ransom for, because not only is he really good, he is on a great contract with where the league is going. So I think you'd get a ton for him. Maybe you target getting a quality not A+, but plus defensive big back that you can play with Queen, because Queen is such a good passer. When he was in their starting lineup, a lot of what they were doing, they would pass out of the high post with him, and he can do that. And he can really be a Jokic-y, Sabonis-y, like Sengun-y, like I think hub for your offense in the high post, because I think he's a really good passer like that. But when you'd made this trade and when you drafted Fears, who's probably 6'1" or 6'2", and he's never going to be a good defensive player. Same with Queen, like he's probably 6'9", 6'10" center who's going to be who's a minus athlete. That's not where his game is. He's not going to ever be a good defensive player. You really made your bed. Like, you're either going to have Herb Jones is a great start, but you're going to have to do a lot more than Herb Jones. You're going to have like A+, not, and I say A+ maybe too much, but you're going to have like A+ defensive insulation around those guys, because they just have low defensive ceilings. Like I don't know how they can become good defenders. Like, it's not an effort thing. They just are not built to be good defensive players. So you're going to have A+ insulation around them, and they don't currently have a roster with that. And that's why I think I'd trade Zion, because he's been healthy. This is the most you're ever going to be able to get for him, is this offseason. He's been healthy this year. He's been good this year. And he's a really good player. I would love if maybe Portland took a swing on him. And I think that can make some sense. Maybe you get back in some sign and trade. You get back like a Robert Williams. Not that Robert Williams could be a starter, but he's at least he's a really good defensive big who's, when he's been healthy this year, proven what he can do. And then I think I don't think you have to trade Trey Murphy by any means, because he's a good defensive player and he's really good. But I think if you floated him out there to San Antonio or New York, or like that would be a great Detroit guy. That would be a perfect guy for Detroit to go get.
Well, we've talked about the forward position being the only thing, and that I've told you already that I still think they should move on from one of those 3 guards in San Antonio to fill out those 2 forward spots. And if you do that, and you could make a De'Aaron Fox for Jones, Trey Murphy, or you could it just I'm not going to try and give San Antonio any more ideas. I better
No,
shut up.
they don't need Trey Murphy. Someone else go get Trey Murphy.
Yes.
But yes, I mean, I don't. I get what they're doing, and I get that they're not necessarily super leading to winning, but I think this summer for New Orleans, like I think that those two rookies have shown enough. Maybe they are just solid, but I think when you're New Orleans, like they're also rookies. Like being solid as a rookie is hard. Like there's not that many solid rookies any year, especially in an environment like that. They fired their coach. It's a disaster up top. The owners don't care about the team. Like this is a losing situation that they found a way to come in and be winning. I think pretty like winning. Maybe I think winning players is probably a stretch, but like they've displayed skills that can translate to winning teams. And so I think this summer you just build around those two. Maybe try and keep Herb Jones, but then if you can't get a total haul for Trey Murphy, maybe don't. But I would go call. You know who has a ton of guys like this that are really good insulative defensive players is Detroit, who would love to have Trey Murphy, I'm sure. So that can make some sense. Maybe you get Ron Holland back, whoever, right? Like just get really good defensive players back to surround these two defensive minus guys who you've really forced yourself to build around. They probably are just stuck with Jordan Poole. That was so dumb, even when they did it. I don't know why they did that. Now they still have him on the books for next year. Try and get off him, but they probably can't. But do everything you can. I think you can probably get something good for Zion. You can get something great for Trey Murphy. You can probably get a first and a swap for Herb Jones if you wanted to trade him. So I think that the cupboard is full enough to where they can get assets back and really start a true rebuild around these two guys, but I don't necessarily trust New Orleans to do it. And if they just want to give the team away and not deal with it anymore, they can give the team to me and I will fire everyone running the team and get Joe Dumars away from the game. He had his great player career. That was his cut. That should have been the beginning and end of his contribution to basketball. A memorable bad boy Piston who was a really good underrated all-time player. And then he should have just retired, gone and started a startup somewhere, funded it, maybe made some money, maybe do some money laundering or something. Anything is better than what he's done running basketball teams post-playing career. He should be taken to jail for what he's done at two different front offices now. So I hope he gets fired sounds so mean, but from basketball perspective, I hope he gets fired because he's terrible at his job. So that's how they should start. I don't think they will just because they just signed him to be on to be their GM last year. So I think he probably has a year or two left still before they realize that he's terrible at his job again. But that's what if they do that and maybe hire someone smart to run it, I think there's a cupboard here that's full and you have young players who are promising and you have got like for all this front office and the last one's terrible things they've done, they've signed some guys to some really good contracts between Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. Like these are guys on valuable contracts that anyone would be comfortable with on their books. So then they have Jordan Poole. So that's the opposite. But I think this is a team that can get on the right path if they have the right guy running and if they make the right decisions. I just don't really trust that either of those things are going to happen.
We will see what happens, my friend. But yes, I'm hoping some of those players in New Orleans, i.e. Jones and Murphy, matriculate their way to the Lakers. But, that's just something I like to say put out there. But again, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. But yes, right now, Knipple is the rookie of the year. I think with both Calif and I. And if you have thoughts on that, or you think Flag is still the rookie of the year, please let us know right there in the comments below. But Calif, before we head on out, anything you're working on for any of your outlets or anything you want to promote before we head on out?
Well, the Hartenstein thing, he now is hurt again. So that's kind of on the back burner until he gets healthy because it just kind of feels weird to write a story about a guy who's hurt. But they'll eventually someone I write about will either continue to play well or be healthy, and I'll actually have a story come out here before too long. But I'll have something come out here soon. I'm sure. I'm really itching to get back writing about the Thunder. I haven't put anything out really since before the trade deadline. So keep an eye out for something here in the not too distant future. I'm not going to put a date on it because I don't know exactly when or how busy I'll be, but. I mean, the Thunder are an interesting team who have this Jared McCain thing has really been an interesting addition for them too, for now and the future. So keep an eye out. I don't know exactly when I'll have something come out, but I'm sure I will before too long. So, but thanks for thanks for giving me a chance to plug my stuff that I haven't written here in a while. But I'll eventually have something come out, and I appreciate everyone who ever makes their way over to read it.
And that is at the New Century Express, and also as well the Suave Report as well. But Calif, great to have you back, and we are looking forward to what we're going to go ahead and hopefully talk about next week. Truly looking forward to our conversations again. I really appreciate it. We've been doing this now for almost the entire season, and I cannot thank you enough. You said you wanted to do this on a weekly basis, and I'm certainly glad that you did.
Yeah, I've had a great time. I just love talking about basketball and talking with someone who knows their stuff about basketball, because that's pretty difficult to find nowadays in my experience. So I've enjoyed it. I'm glad, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So yeah, I'll most likely be back next week unless something comes up. So excited to get back to it then.
And it gets even tougher for our observations because conference tournament time is coming for college basketball this week. And a lot of it happening here in Las Vegas. So there you go, indeed. It is, of course, Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and check him out today at the New Century Express and at the Suave Report. We'll be back. I know that Legend has asked to go ahead and do an NBA observations this week. Looking forward to go ahead and having him back on for that, and hopefully Matt John can get back onto the well list, get back off the injured list with the illness, and get back on the active list with us this week. So looking forward to that as well. But Calif, great to have you here. Looking forward to our continued talks as we provide everyone out there some of the best in NBA observations.